At 2:37 a.m., I found myself sitting upright in bed, staring at the ceiling and listening to the quiet hum of our air conditioner. My wife, Harper, was asleep beside me, or at least I assumed she was. When I gently touched her shoulder to ask if she could hear me out for a moment, she rolled over and let out a sharp laugh, muttering something about overreacting. "You're worried about nothing, Camden," she said, her voice laced with amusement. I didn't argue. I nodded, swallowed the lump forming in my throat, and lay back down, trying to ignore the anxiety crawling up my chest. Camden was my name. I'm 39, and I've been married to Harper for almost 12 years. In those 12 years, I had learned to read her moods, to predict when she would snap, when she would pull away, and when she would retreat behind that barrier of indifference she often built. I wasn't perfect, far from it. I worked long hours managing a logistics company, often bringing work stress home, but I prided myself on being present, reliable, and fair. I had always believed marriage was a partnership, mutual effort, mutual respect. But that night, her laughter felt like a blade sliding across the fragile edges of our relationship. I had noticed small cracks over the past months. She'd been withdrawing, retreating into her phone, lingering late at the office without explanation. Her laughter at my concern wasn't the first, but it felt sharper, colder, a clear signal that something inside her had changed. I tried to dismiss it as stress, as the chaos of life piling up, but I couldn't shake the sinking feeling that we were drifting further apart. By morning, the house felt heavier than it ever had. I got up early, brewed coffee, and moved quietly through the kitchen. Harper wasn't there yet. The silence pressed down on me, a stark contrast to the echo of laughter from the night before. I walked into our bedroom, still trying to hold on to normalcy, and that's when I saw it. The closet was empty. Not a few missing shirts or coats. Empty. Every piece of clothing gone. Shoes gone. The scent of her perfume lingered faintly, but that was it. The space that had once been hers, a private corner of our shared life, now resembled a hollow shell. My heart began to pound. Questions raced through my mind faster than I could formulate them. Where had she gone? Why leave so quietly? And why, in the middle of the night, had she laughed at my concern? I called out, softly at first. "Harper." No answer. The only response was the faint ticking of the wall clock and the distant sound of traffic outside. I checked my phone. No messages, no notifications. My hands were trembling slightly as I dialed her number. Straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same result. A cold knot formed in my stomach, a sense of emptiness and disbelief settling over me. By the time the sun rose fully, Harper walked back into the house. Her eyes were red, mascara streaked across her cheeks, and she looked smaller, fragile in a way that contradicted the bold, confident woman I had seen just hours before. She didn't speak at first. She just stood there in the doorway, looking at me, at the empty closet, at the silent apartment. I felt my throat tighten. Finally, she whispered. I didn't mean to. I just couldn't handle it anymore. Handle what? I asked, my voice quieter than I expected. She shook her head, tears spilling freely now. Everything. Us. Me. I didn't know how to tell you, Camden. I thought laughing would make it easier, but it wasn't enough. I didn't know how to say goodbye. The word struck me like ice water. Goodbye. After 12 years. 12 years of shared mornings, arguments, celebrations, quiet dinners, and ordinary nights. She had already started to sever the ties we had spent over a decade weaving together. I wanted to scream, to cry, to shake her and demand answers. But the calm part of me, the part that had been numbed over years of emotional neglect, took over. I simply nodded, silently acknowledging the reality she had forced into our lives. We sat down on the edge of the bed, the empty closet looming behind us like a ghost of what had been. She explained that the laughter had been her way of masking fear of confronting the truth she had known for weeks but hadn't admitted. She had been unhappy, not because of me failing her in any glaring way, but because she had lost herself, her identity, in the rhythm of our shared lives. Work, bills, responsibilities, expectations. We had both fallen into them like swimmers caught in a current, and somehow we had drifted apart. As she spoke, I realized how little I had truly seen. The signs were there, subtle at first, growing bolder over time. Canceled plans, whispered complaints to friends, late-night texts she didn't want me to see. I had brushed them off, believing that love and patience could smooth over cracks in the foundation. But foundations weaken when neglected, and now, staring at an empty closet, I understood that some damage is irreversible. By the time she finished, she was crying quietly, broken, small. I wanted to comfort her, to wrap my arms around her and say it would be okay. But the man I had become, shaped by years of trying, hoping, and being unseen, couldn't ignore the truth. The truth was that laughter in the middle of the night, empty closets, silent withdrawals, these were all signs I could no longer ignore. Love, in this form, had died silently, gradually, like water eroding stone. I got up slowly, my hand brushing against the edge of the dresser. I thought about the years we had shared, the late-night drives, the shared meals, the arguments resolved and unresolved. And then I realized that leaving wasn't an act of anger or revenge. It was clarity, self-respect, an acknowledgement that you cannot force someone to stay or feel what they no longer feel. I told her quietly, "Harper, I can't do this anymore. Not because I stopped caring, but because I've been invisible for too long. I gave everything I had, and it wasn't enough. It's time we accept that." She nodded, tears spilling again. But this time there was no argument, no laughter, no deflection, just recognition and acceptance of the inevitable. She gathered a few belongings, and we moved through the apartment in a strange, silent choreography, acknowledging the absence that had been growing for months, finally giving it form. By the time she left for the last time that morning, I stood in the empty bedroom, listening to the echo of the door closing behind her. The house felt different, colder perhaps, but also quieter in a way that allowed me to breathe. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt the weight lift slightly, leaving space for clarity, for reflection, for the understanding that life moves forward whether we are ready or not. That day, I learned a truth I wish I had recognized sooner. Love is not always loud, not always marked by fireworks or grand gestures. Sometimes it fades quietly, leaving only the echoes of what was. And when that happens, the only choice left is to face it with honesty, with dignity, and with the understanding that survival is sometimes the most profound act of love you can offer yourself. By nightfall, I had packed the essentials, cleared the apartment of the lingering shadows, and stepped outside into the crisp evening air. The streetlights cast long, quiet shadows across the sidewalk, and I felt a strange sense of peace. Not joy, not excitement, just clarity. The laughter at 2:37 a.m., the empty closet, the tears, everything had led to this moment of undeniable truth. And in that truth, I found the beginning of moving forward.